Good morning, it's Dave at All Things Important Reviews. Please smash that like button, please smash that subscribe button for more awesome watch content. Quick wristwatch check. I've got my Pagani Design PD1664. Beautiful rose gold and black homage watch, unbeatable for the price. There is an affiliate link down below if you wanted to pick it up. I think you can get it for around 80 to 90 quid, if not cheaper. And it is just an absolute steal for the price, and the band is super comfortable. I already kind of compared them in my previous video, but I thought I would do a proper comparison for you all of the G-Steel, the latest G-Steel B-line models, which are basically the G400D in my left hand, which is a 2021 model, and the G500D, which is a 2022 model in my right hand. They both look very similar, but there are some subtle differences, and I'll start with the main one, which is the price, and that for some reason this year's model, the G500D, at least on bracelet, is around 30% cheaper than last year's model. The RRP is around 279 GBP compared to the G400, which was around 379 to 399 RRP. So it's about 30% cheaper for this year's model. I'll explain why it is cheaper in a bit, but it is only cheaper in one regard, in my opinion. And they both have benefits and downsides, which I will explain. So starting with the sizing. The sizing is where there is a difference, the sizing and weight basically. The G400 in my left hand, it is bigger, it is bulkier, even though it's super comfortable, but the sizing is about 13.2 thickness to the top of the bezel, 13.1, 13.2, to around 12.9 to the top of the crystal, 46.5 lug to lug, around 54.5 to 55 mil N-link to N-link, and is around 49.5 overall diameter. Now that compares with, as well, the bracelet is around 26.5, 26.6 at the tallest, tapering down to around 20 mil at the thinnest, compared with this year's model, which is smaller. The lug to lug is the same, of about 46.5, but the thickness is only around 12.8 mil to the top of the bezel, but is around 12.4 mil to the top of the crystal, so it's around half a mil thinner in that sense. As I said, 46.5 lug to lug, N-link to N-link of around 53 point something, and overall diameter of around 48 and a bit, 48 and a half. So it is definitely and the bracelet, starts about 25, 24 and a bit, tapering down to 19 mil. It's like 18.8, but it tapers down to around 19 mil nominal. So the bracelet is thinner, the case is thinner, well, it tapers more thinner, sorry. The case is thinner slightly, it's less bulkier, and it is smaller diameter overall, so it is a smaller watch. So in terms of proportions, which do I prefer? I probably do actually prefer the B500 this year. It is comfier, the tapering is better, and the sizing is slightly better. I wouldn't want them to go smaller than this though, but it is slightly better. Even having said that, they are both super comfortable. When it comes to bezels, it's so for the winner for sizing, I'm going to give it to the G500 personally. But to be fair, if you've got a big wrist like me, like 7.25, 7.5, the G400 is probably, totally adequate for you, and you might not want to go smaller than that. This might be fine. I'm not saying this is small, but for a Gshock, it is small for a Gshock. I mean, the Gshock squares and the they are too small for me, the Gshock squares. The Gshock squares feel more like a 39mm watch, a 40 to 39mm watch, which I don't like. These ones are much more up my street. Now, when it comes to bezel, you can clearly see that the bezel is practically identical, so I'm going to give it a draw. I'm not the biggest fan of plain bezels. That's why you can get these models in different variations that don't have plain bezels, especially the G400, which I would actually suggest. I would suggest getting this one in the green one or the black one from Japan. It's like got a patterned plastic bezel. I think it's plastic, or it could be steel, but I think it is plastic. But on these ones, they both clearly have a plain stainless steel bezel, which will show scratches pretty quickly, which is why I'm not a big fan of it, but I'll give them a draw. When it comes to the dials, they have jigged around the dial a bit, and the other day I did think that this was superior, the G500. I mean, it's superior in the sense of it's less cluttered. However, the top of the subdial on the G500, they've kind of merged it together and put it in the bottom, the bottom south of the dial, if you will. And, covering the 6, 5 and 4 o'clock areas. But the top area of it is not super legible. Now, that's not to say that you would be regularly using it. Can you see what I mean? Whereas on the G400, I feel as though it is easier to see the subdials because they've used more of the actual dial when they've arranged them. But it is more cluttered. So it's a tough one. I mean, there's just a blank space there on the G500. I mean, speaking from ergonomics, I think the easier one to read is probably the G400. But from a looks perspective, I'm not quite sure which one I do prefer, actually. The other day I thought I preferred the G500. I mean, we're comparing the stealthy model, which isn't super legible, which is not a fair comparison, but it's the only model I currently have here. But for symmetry, the G400 dial is better. But on the basis of it looking more sporty, the G500 is better. I'll give it a draw. It's a tough one, that, deciding which one do I prefer. Because this one now, the more I look at it, it reminds me of one of them open heart watches. And I'm not the biggest fan of open heart watches. But because that wheel is so visible on this particular model, it does remind me of that kind of thing. But to be fair, you can easily see the negative subdials on both watches. And the lights do light up the subdials and the analog dial. Now, one thing I don't always show, but I will start showing you, is the Lume. And the Lume on both is, I don't know why they've not done it, but on the previous Gshocks, steel Gshocks, the outer ring, the outer markers of the indices on the ring, they would actually be lumed. On this model, they're not. And they're also not lumed. On this one, it's only the hands. And that is a negative because they should be lumed. You can see just slightly how the hands are lumed. It'll be that Neo Bright that Casio uses. I mean, the Lume is not amazing. It is acceptable. In my opinion, the outer ring or the full indices should be lumed, in my opinion. On the stealthy model, I can understand why it's not, but I think it should be on the outer ring. Definitely should be lumed. So I'm going to give them a draw for Lume on that. When it comes to features and performance, they both basically have the same features. They're both tough solar, so they'll light up, that they'll charge with fluorescent and non-fluorescent light. They both have the world time, many cities you can choose from. They both have the Bluetooth functionality, so you can get synchronized timekeeping with your phone if that's something you want to do, by hooking it up to the Casio Gshock app. They both have, the indicator for the battery on the dial. They have many of the same features, so I'm going to give it again a draw on the features, really, because well, actually, no. On the features for that, in that sense, yes, they are equal as far as I can see. They're very similar. But the main difference is going to be on the bracelet and the sizing. Now, the bracelet, the G400, definitely has a winner, in my opinion, in the sense that these are completely solid links. The mechanism to take them off is a quick release pin. Putting them back on is not super easy. I had to fiddle with it a bit, but it was quite easy, but it was a bit finicky. But this is, it's a good system. To release the pins is easy. You just put a tool in there, wiggle it around, and then release. It's got like a spring bar inside of it, essentially. It's a good system. It works really well, and you get 4 micro adjusts on the clasp. The clasp is a deployant with safety catch. With push buttons, not with a safety catch. Works really well. I've never had one of these fail on me. It is super secure, even though it does not have a safety. And it is completely solid links. They are not pressed and folded. They are completely solid. So this is, and it is super comfortable. Nothing on any of the bracelets, scratch your wrist or aggravate anything. Compared with the G500, which is a more tapering bracelet, but it has an inferior mechanism. It has a push pin again, but you only have to release it on one side. It works just fine, but it does feel a little bit more jingly because the links are not solid. The links they have folded pressed metal in there. So they're not completely solid. That's why the weight is around 15 to 20 grams lighter, and the clasp only has 3 micro adjusts instead of 4. No idea why they've done that. That is a silly thing to do. But in terms of the comfort, the G500 wins because it is smaller, it's less bulkier, and it's lighter because of the bracelet. But for more premium quality feel, definitely the G400 at around 160 grams, the one on my left, definitely feels better. The bracelet feels more quality on the wrist, and it feels more premium, and it has a better mechanism. Personally, as I said, I think probably the G400 is the better overall watch. Not this particular stealthy model. If you can get it in different colours, it probably is the better overall watch because the bracelet is better in terms of the materials used and the quality of it. But it is heavier, and for most people, I think most people that have smaller wrists definitely get the B500 because it is comfier, it's smaller, and you're getting all the features. You're getting the tough solar, you're getting the world time and the light and all that kind of stuff, and the Bluetooth. So you're not really losing out on any features. It's just a preference of the colours that you prefer. As I said, I prefer the green one or the black G400, which is only released in Japan, unfortunately. Or on this G500, even maybe get the gold one, or just get the standard one like I have, the 1A. But you can get different colours. But this one is super legible dial. For legibility, obviously the G500 wins, and it probably wins compared to the other more legible G400s. So the G500 would win all the legibility because the other G400 ones and are still not super legible, in my opinion. The G500 is superior, at least the standard model is. So it's you know, it's horses for courses in many ways. If you don't like watches above 150 gram, definitely get the G400 because it's only around 144 gram. G500, sorry, because it's only around 140 odd grams. With it, when you take a link out, as I have, it'll probably be like 135, 139, something like that grams. So it's super light. Whereas with this one, I haven't actually took anything out because with the way, just my luck, with the way I like to have it quite loose, on a bracelet at least, I couldn't find the perfect fit even though it had 4 links, even though it had 4 micro adjusts. So I ended up just leaving the links in. But anyway, so this one is quite a bit heavier than this for me. But anyway, they're both really comfortable, both stylish, both absolute amazing bang for buck. I don't think you're going to get much watches bang for buck out there that can compete. That was a quick comparison. I have got another Casio watch coming to me that is nothing like these watches, that I think will be an interesting one to review because I had one of its cousins, or I had an older version's cousin that from a few years ago before I had a channel that I sold because I felt it was just a bit too bulky, but it's coming for review in the next few days. Thanks a lot for checking my video out. Please subscribe. Loads more watches coming for review. It's Dave. Cheers.